Winterberg in Germany, a winter wonderland and the venue for the 5th race weekend of the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup. Hello everybody, welcome back to our coverage this Saturday morning of the 5th stop of the tour for the women's bobsleigh. 18 sleds in our race, and this is also the European Championships. Well, in our first heat we have got a lot of tight racing. In 3rd place, Katy Bile of Austria. World Cup best result, a silver medal from Sigulda earlier in this season. She currently lies 2nd in the World Cup standings as they chase for the Crystal Globe, looking for another podium here. Our World Cup points leader is rookie Kim Kalicki in her first World Cup season. Kalicki with 3 silver medals and 3 bronze medals in her World Cup portfolio, looking for win number 1. She's 14 hundredths away from victory after the first heat. But the woman that she's got to beat is very experienced, at least in claiming medals. Lauren Alter and Deborah Levy, 10th World Cup start for Lauren Alter. She's had 3 wins and 4 further podium finishes out of the previous 9 starts. She leads here. Could she make it win number 4 of her young career? Well, this weekend we also welcome back our sliders from North America. You can see Kaylee Humphries, Alana Myers-Taylor just 200ths apart. A little clump of sleds covered by 200ths. Behind them, Lubov Chernik heads up 7 sleds covered by 1/10 of a second. We've also got a tiny gap between Melanie Hassler and Nadezhda Sergeva, the reigning European champion. And even at the back of the field, just 700ths for the final place. Well, there's Leonie Fiebig, winner last time out with Stephanie Schneider in Innsbruck. She's with Mariama Yamanka today. Yamanka lying in 4th place, 800ths out the medals. Todd Hayes and Christine de Brown discussing the first heat as the athletes get ready for the second and deciding run down this Winterberg track. And for this woman, Nadezhda Sergeva, the reigning European champion, guaranteed that she's not going to take that medal here today. Russia won both golds in the Europeans yesterday. The men's skeleton race going to Alexander Trechikov, and the women's going to Elena Nikitina. Melanie Hassler there, lying 3rd in the points. You just saw her thinking her way down the track. And there you can see the high-tech warm-up facilities, otherwise known as an icy car park, that the athletes have to use here in Winterberg beside this big modern start facility. Well, let's take a look at our starting list then. Brittany Reinbold-Johnson leads the field off. She's 18th after the first heat. They go in reverse order of their first heat performance. So Brittany gets the best of the ice, at least that's the theory, and should hopefully help close up some of these gaps. But there are some very tiny margins, some dead heats in the field as well, until we get to our top 3. 2200s cover the top 3, 1400s first to second. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. We're in Winterberg in Germany. Brittany Reinbold-Johnson and Lauren Gibbs kick off the action as Team USA returns. Coach Mike Kahn watching over proceedings at the start. Didn't get the most synchronized hit in their first race since, well, for Brittany, her first World Cup race since December 2019 in Lake Placid. First start was a 5.71, that's a 5.72. Let's see what they've got. They're only 700ths away from Russian rookie Anastasia Makarova, who was ahead of them in the first heat. Newly married Brittany will want to overhaul the closest sled at least. Key now, not about maybe what the result is, but just about getting back to racing, particularly for Brittany, who is self-funded this year. Couldn't come on tour last year. The USA only had funds for 1 sled, and Kaylee Humphries got that spot. She was the only US slider last year. Didn't have a bad job. 129.9, decent speed at the bottom. We'll see speeds up to maybe 131. 57.52. That's a big improvement over 57.75. So she finds nearly a quarter of a second in the second heat. Getting the old spidey senses tingling and getting a feel again for this Winterberg track. Hasn't raced here in Winterberg for nearly 3 years. And Brittany just getting a little hooked up on the cow, dropping in as they get out of the guidelines, grabbing the steering D-rings. Again, just a fraction late in the crossover. Puts you into a little skid, but that's very hard to avoid. Brittany Reinbold-Johnson is our race leader. Good to see America and Canada back. Good to see the Russian sleds back as well. Russian women had to miss a couple of races because of positive COVID testing. This is our rookie, Anastasia Makarova, with Yulia Belomesnik behind her. Brakewoman in her 14th World Cup race. The driver in her very first. It's only her second season of racing. She raced in third season, raced 2 years of Europa Cup. 5.72 getaway, exactly the same as Reinbold-Johnson, so she's got a 7/100th of a second advantage as she sits down. Can she hang on to it? 800ths. This is going to be very close indeed. So easy to give that away. Little skid out of 4, dropping down through corner 5. 600ths. Tiny margins, better speed by a fraction than Brittany Reinbold-Johnson. But now the speed is not quite so high, and this was her undoing in the first heat. She and Nadezhda Sergeyeva of Russia, who comes up next, did not have good speed at the bottom of the track. She's clinging on by her fingernails. Better speed than the US sled at the line. Who's in front? She is by 200ths. 57.57, 500 slower than Brittany Reinbold-Johnson. She had 700ths in the bank. The winning margin then in their private battle, just 2/100ths of a second. So Anastasia Makarova, welcome to the World Cup. Brittany Reinbold-Johnson, welcome back. What a strange, strange year it has been, 2020. What a strange season it is producing. But we are racing, even if it's behind closed doors. We do at least have a World Cup campaign, all based in Europe. And then there is Anastasia, first sight of her in a World Cup race. Next up is our reigning European champion. Today's race is also the European Championships. Nadezhda Sergeyeva won the title with Elena Mamedova behind her in Sigulda in February last year. Fantastic race result for her. She's had her 2 best ever World Cup race results in Sigulda, Russia's second home track. She definitely did not have a big run here. Only 400ths of a second behind Switzerland's Melanie Hassler. 5.67 getaway, exactly the same as she and Alexandra Tarasova produced in the first heat. Tarasova, the brakewoman, another debutante here. 25-year-old in only her second season as a brakewoman, promoted behind Sergeyeva. Nadezhda is Russia's most experienced bobsleigh driver now in the women's program. Best speed at the Kreisel, and she is opening up the advantage over teammate Makarova. There's no chance she's going to catch Lubov Chernik unless Chernik crashes somewhere down the run, and that is just as easily said as done. 2800s up, growing the gap, 130.2, still a kilometre an hour down on the faster sleds. But she takes the lead from Anastasia Makarova. 57.41 compared to 57.55 in the first heat. So 1400ths of a second better. That seems to be holding up well. The athletes adapting to today's conditions and finding a bit more pace. So her last few moments as European champion. It's a big, big thing with Russia. Lubov Chernik taking her 3rd European Championship win, her 4th European medal, and not Lubov Chernik. Elena Nikitina yesterday was absolutely over the moon. And 14 years after he was first a European champion, Alexander Tretyakov equally delighted to have beaten the legend Martin Stukos in a straight fight. Well, next up, with Melanie Hassler is Irina Strabel. Irina returning to competition for the first time in 2 years. Strabel's last World Cup was February 19 in Calgary before the Whistler World Champs. So first race with Melanie Hassler, a 5:69 getaway, fraction quicker than their first start. Hassler lying in third place rather, in our World Cup point standings this year. What a fantastic season she has been having as well. Yet to finish on the podium, and today is not going to be that day. Her World Cup best of 4th place in the season opener in Sigulda. Second best speed for the Swiss sled. Now she tops the speed times. Her speed traps rather ahead of Brittany Reinbold-Johnson. Creeping away from Segeva out to 1500s ahead of her rival. There was only 400s between them in the first heat. It's a better run from Melanie Hassler, 1300s up. 57.32. So you saw a brief glimpse of Nadezhda Segeva as she leaves the leader's box. Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel will move into it. So, panting like racehorses, the thoroughbreds that they are. This huge explosion of energy at the start. And then the barely daring to breathe zen calm of the drive down the track doesn't allow you much time to get your breath back. It's barely a minute after that short sprint. Not even a minute, 50 seconds. Great view. That's Peter, our cameraman there, with a hypermotion in corner 11. Okay, not sure what the message is there, but hopefully that got home. Next up, Misha McNeil and Montel Douglas lying in 14th place after the first heat. And in a group of 7 sleds covered by just a 1/10 of a second. So here we really get into snakes and ladders territory. You can go up a few or go down a few, depending on whether you have a good second heat or not such a good second heat. 27-year-old won the Junior World Championships here in 2017, Misha McNeil. 5:75 getaway, 100 quicker than their first heat. They are 100 behind Anne van Nieuwenhuis of Belgium. And that was 600 slower than Melanie Hassler, and they were only 600s ahead of the Swiss sled. So now Misha McNeil needs to find a little bit more pace. Still 600s back. The first heat advantage has evaporated. Let's see if she can bring some more speed. 300 back, slightly better speed than the Swiss sled. Top speed exiting the Kreisel for Misha McNeil. 130.2 for Anastasia Makarova is the best speed at the bottom, 130.9. And that'll give her an advantage of 800s at the line. So she had 6, she adds 200s more to her advantage over Melanie Hassler and moves into the leader's box. And 200s quicker in the first heat would have left her tied for 11th rather than 14th place in a 3-way tie for 11th, incidentally. Just a little better getting in. Just dragged her knee on the cowl in the first start. And had a tiny bit more control going into the zero curve. Misha McNeil with the best speed so far. We will see quicker sleds, though. So Misha McNeil leads for Great Britain. The only British sled in the women's field. Not the only British female bobsledder, though, but the only one in World Cup. She leads from Melanie Hassler and Nadezhda Segeva. Belgian bullets, Anne van Nieuwenhuis and Sarah Ertz next up, 13th place. Finished in 9th in last year's Winterberg race. 100th in hand over Misha McNeil and Montel Douglas, the current leaders. 5:78, they start 300 slower than their rivals, and as a result are 200s behind. 200s back, 100s quicker than their first heat. 200s back, 100s slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than their rivals, and as a result are 200s behind. 200s back, 100s slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than their rivals, and as a result are 200s behind. 200s back, 100s slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than their rivals, and as a result are 200s behind. 200s back, 100s slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start 300 slower than Melanie Hassler and Irina Strabel. 5:78, they start What can Van Nieuwenhuis produce in the drive here? Well, she's already undone that deficit into the green by 100th. Nice, quiet, soft hands through this early part of the track, barely daring to breathe. Into the Kreisel, third best speed. McNeil was fastest. McNeil was also fastest off the Kreisel. So the Belgian sled not finding the speed it wants. This is a brand new sled, a brand new BTC, bought by friends, families and supporters for. And over the off-season, fifth best speed at the bottom, ducks ahead across the line, but she slips. 1300s back, Misha McNeil moves up one spot. And Anne van Nieuwenhuis drops behind Melanie Hassler. Stays ahead of Sergieva and Makarova. But in these tight groups of sleds, she's not looking entirely happy getting out of the sled, physically rather than mentally. If she picked up an injury in the second start, that makes that still a very promising drive. A little late hung up there, really quite late. And that throws her into a big skid. Again, looking 11, sat right down in the sled, looking around that peak in the cowl. Sure, the family watching at home as ever. Say hi to them. Normally there'd be a big group coming down here to Winterberg, their closest track, but not this year. Andrea Grecu and Katarina Wick. Andrea Grecu, the silver medalist in the European Championships in Sigulda. And here, racing on home ice. This is where Romania's team is effectively based. Paul Niargu in the background there, yelling them off. The linchpin of the whole operation is based here in Winterberg, in town. 5:66 start, that's a little more like it. They started 5:68 in the first heat. They are tied in 11th with Margot Bock of France. They're only 800ths out of 8th place. Grecu's best result on this track is a 6th place finish last year. It's a long haul from where she is, but she's 2/10 up on Misha McNeil. She only had 100 from the first heat, 200 from the first heat. This is a very big run from Andrea Grecu. Now she's got her mojo working. Much, much different drive from the first heat. Still 2/10 up. 1:30.2, second best speed at the line. 1700's the advantage. Pushes Misha McNeil out of the leader's box. There's Paul Niargu. Paul, a former slider. His son was a slider as well, then went on to coach in the German program. They've been based here in Winterberg for many years. Paul, the driving force behind all of the Romanian program, particularly working with the women's program, and a really nice looking drive from Andrea Grecu. Another one of those would have definitely helped her in the first heat. 57.15 would have left her 200s out of 4th rather than the 11th place tie where she was. Margot Bock of France with Sandy Clare, former double Olympic track cyclist, behind her. And best wishes to brakewoman Carla Seneschal, who's not on the sled this weekend. She's back home watching. After a positive COVID test, Carla, sending you all the best wishes. She seems to be pretty much okay, so hopefully she'll be back soon. 5:77 getaway compared to the 5:81. That's an improvement for the French duo. So Sandy Clare, hugely experienced track sprint cyclist, and now looking for Winter Olympic spot as well with the French bobsleigh team. 1500s behind, and third place after the second best start. So slipping behind Andrea Grecu and Misha McNeil. These 7 sleds covered by 1/10 of a second. There was always going to be changes in this midfield group. Margot Bock trying to find pace at the bottom. She's in second at the moment, ahead of McNeil. Second best speed, and that should just seal the deal. She ducks ahead for the line, 600s back. So Andrea Grecu stays in the lead. But Margot Bock slips just at one spot. Tied for 11th with Andrea Grecu. And now she is 600s behind the Romanian. And she may yet move up spots as more sleds are still to come. First ever race start for Sandy Clare. And there will be more technique being worked on. They've done some work on the start tracks. But doing it for real in the races is a different deal always. So Margot Bock, Sandy Clare in second. Andrea Grecu, Katarina Wick are race leaders. As we get to the tie for 9th position between Bree Walker and Sarah Blizzard of Australia and Martina Fonteneve and Nadia Pasternak of Switzerland. The Swiss set the time, the Aussies tied it, and that means that Australia go first. So Bree Walker, 13th place in the race here in Winterberg last January. Bree in only her 7th ever World Cup start. Nice run through the zero curve. Hasn't been home to Australia in over 12 months. She spent the summer training in Germany with the German team. The Australian operation getting a lot of support from the Germans. 800s in front at the Kreisel. This is over the European silver medalist Andrea Grecu. She only had 200s from the first heat. The gap is back down to 200s. Grecu had good speed at the bottom. Bree Walker needs a little more. What's she going to find? Second place at the line, I think, but not by much. 300s back. So Andrea Grecu just creeping up the order a little. Grecu was tied for 11th. She'll be now no worse than 10th. Doesn't sound like a lot when you've overhauled a couple of sleds. Bree Walker, 300s behind Andrea Grecu, but she stays ahead of Margot Bock and Misha McNeil.
Next sled will be from Switzerland. Martina Fonteneve, Nadia Pasternak.
Everybody gets straightened up there to a greater or lesser extent into the Kreisel. She comes with a nice line right round the middle. And again, nudged away on the exit in 11. A little low maybe early on. Gets a good exit. Bree on the right, Sarah on the left. Andrea Grecu and Katarina Wick lead as Martina Fonteneve and Nadia Pasternak come to the line. Their advantage from the first heat over the Romanian sled, 200ths of a second. Martina Fonteneve, her 28th World Cup race. And 15th for great woman Nadia Pasternak. Nadia has pushed both for Martina and for Melanie Hassler this season. Swiss alternating their great women, their driver and great woman lineups, keeping everybody race fit and healthy. 5.64 gives them a 400ths of a second advantage as they sit down. 300ths at corner 3. And it's going to be a tie as they get out of 5. No, she's 200ths behind. Losing speed, gets nudged away in 6. Needs a good exit from the Kreisel. $1,400s back. It's going to be hard to come back from here no matter how quick the sled is down at the bottom. Right now, plunging down the order, only 6th on the split times at the line. Where is she? She is in 6th position. So disappointing, she drops behind teammate Melanie Hassler. Hassler 5th, Fonteneve 6th with 8 sleds to go. Well, 5.64 was a good start, but then too many little errors creeping in and the speed going away early in the run. And the gaps just grew and grew. And again, late exit there, had to haul it off. And a bump on the exit on the crossover as well. Just the timing, a fraction off. Andrea Grecu, Katrina Vick leading from Bree Walker, Sarah Blizzard, Margot Bock and Sandy Clare. 8 sleds remain in the race. Lubov Chernik in 8th place with European champion Elena Mamedova behind her. Chernik in her 16th World Cup start, finished 11th place in the race here in January last year. 5.71 the getaway. They started 5.73 in the first heat. And their advantage over Andrea Grecu is a whole 200ths of a second. We had I beg your pardon, it's more than that. It's 800ths of a second. And that has grown, or shrunk rather, to 400ths. Down to 100th. Third best speed, Grecu had 94.4 kilometers an hour. 0.6 of a kilometer is a big difference at that speed. Only the 6th best speed for Lubov Chernik, and like her compatriots, her sled not producing the speed it needs in this second run. A 10th back. She's down a couple of spots behind Bree Walker. And she's down to 4th behind Margot Bock. So Grecu, Walker and Bock are all moving up the order. The Russian coach is not looking overjoyed with that. 57.36, 100 slower than her first heat. But she and Martina Fontenev have just dropped down the order. Andrea Grecu has risen from a tie from 11th to be now the leader with 7 to go. So as Lubov Chernik gets high on the exit there, not great. But the speed was going away. So Andrea Grecu remains our leader. Lubov Chernik there drops down into, where did I say, 4th place. Next up, Alana Myers-Taylor returning to racing action. Interestingly, only Alana, Kaylee Humphries and Ann-Kristen Strack, of all the athletes in the field, have won here. Alana has been in the medals on this track in every race that she's competed in since December 2012 onwards. An astonishing record on the Winterberg ice. And Alana's last race here in Winterberg was actually in a 4-man, with Lolo Jones back behind her to start the second half of the season. Great to see the whole family here as well. Husband Nick, baby Nico here. 2100s up on Andrea Grecu. There's only 700 from the first heat. Can she hold on to that advantage? Third best speed for the BMW sled. Grecu was quick at the bottom. Nisha McNeil still has the highest speed at the bottom. Will we see 131? The gap's coming down. 1400s, 129.3. It'll be enough for the lead. And Alana Myers-Taylor, 57.22 slide. 57.26 in the first heat. There's her brake woman, Lolo Jones, feathering the brakes into the finish area. So returning from a year away from the ice. Husband Nick and baby Nico right there. Well, this has always been a happy hunting ground for Alana Myers-Taylor, but not since 2011 has she been off the podium. She will be off the podium today, but it might yet be a top 6 finish. Only the 10th best speed at the bottom for the BMW sled. That's baby Nico. Next up is Christine de Bruin. Christine, bronze medalist in the World Championships, finished in 3rd in the World Cup standings last year as well, making her first World Cup race since the season finale. She didn't race in Sigulda, did she? And a first ever World Cup start this weekend for Sarah Villani. 5:63 the getaway. They were 200s ahead of Alana Myers-Taylor. They were 100 slower out of the blocks. So it is all but a dead heat as they sit down. Creeping away, 200s in front. Christine de Bruin, 7th place in last year's race here. And her 24-year-old great woman has only raced in the North America's Cup, never raced in Europe before. So this is all very new to her, I'm sure. Very alien this year, particularly with everything in almost total lockdown. 300s is the lead over Alana Myers-Taylor. It's going to be very close at the line. Not great speed, but quick enough. Yes, quick enough. So she will stay in the top 5, or top 6 at least. She was tied for 5th place with Kaylee Humphries. So a 63 start and a 57.19 downtime. And there's the glamour of the sport. Athletes humping their own sleds around, doing all their own preparation work. So Sarah Villani, welcome to the World Cup. And Christine de Bruin, welcome back. Good to have the Canadians, the Americans here. No Koreans, no Japanese, no Chinese racing yet in the World Cup. And whether we've seen them in the World Championships or not, I think possibly depends a little on the prevailing situation health-wise. Next up, Kaylee Humphries and Sylvia Hoffman in the new sled, which has now been named the Black Pearl. So Kaylee Humphries, 4th place in the race here last year. And you have to look back to the 2012-2013 season for Kaylee's only win on this track. This track with Chelsea Valois in the women's race, and she also took team gold that weekend as well, the same day. In fact, 5:60 the getaway, 300s quicker than their Canadian rivals with whom they were tied in the first heat. So there is the margin between them. They outstarted de Bruin and Villani by 300s in the first heat, and they were dead level at the bottom. And they have gone from 300s up to 300s back. And Kaylee Humphries now the only bobsledder still competing in goggles. It's what she learned from her coach Pierre Ludus, who always raced in goggles, even when everybody else was going to a flat visor. She stays with it because it's what makes her comfortable. Second best speed, 200s back. Can she take the lead from de Bruin? No, she doesn't. So the tie is split in favour of the Canadian. Christine de Bruin leads, Kaylee Humphries 2nd, Alana Myers-Taylor 3rd, with 4 sleds to go. Well, we didn't have a North American sled on the podium last year for the first time in 8 seasons. Again, struggling to get into the narrow confines of this BMW sled. It's all very well designing a tiny sled. Engineers don't really like to think about the mechanics of getting the crew in. 4 sleds to go, and all of them German-speaking, or roughly so. Mariam Umanka with Leni Fiebig behind her. 800s out of the medals. Umanka, gold, silver, bronze, and then didn't race in the second race in Innsbruck. Leni Fiebig won that race with Stephanie Schneider. 5:59 getaway. Exactly the same as their first heat. They had 700s over Christine de Bruin. They add another 100th, another 400s rather, to that. Jumanka trying to overhaul Austria's Katrin Weil to get onto the podium. Jumanka, 3 silvers and a bronze on this track in the last 4 years. She has not won a World Cup race in Winterberg. And from 3/10 back, it seems unlikely that they're going to hand her the gold medal today. Only 800s up on Christine de Bruin. The gap is coming down. She's still on target to lead, but that was a very late exit off 13. Second best speed at the line. She will be the leader, but only by 400s. Ooh, I don't think that is enough for a medal. She gets a tap on the head from Leni Fiebig, her brakewoman. Jumanka looks happy with that. 57.22, not as quick as her first trip. So Jumanka from Berlin, Fiebig from Cologne. And just about 2-hour drive from here in Winterberg. So nominally, I guess, this is Leni Fiebig's home track. That was a late exit, though. Yeah, slightly sheepish little look there from our race leader, Mariama Jumanka. 3 sleds to go. Katy Bile and Jennifer Onosanya of Austria looking for a Winterberg medal here, a European Championship medal as well. They lie in 3rd place after the first of 2 heats. Race 5 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup. 2200s off the lead with an 800s advantage over current leader Mariama Jumanka of Germany. That's down to 600s as they start, 300s quicker than their first getaway, and a couple of hundreds slower than the current leaders. Katy Bile has got the potential to be a medalist, currently lying 2nd in the World Cup rankings. Silver medal in Sigulda, race 1 of the season, her World Cup best. She's 500s up over Jumanka, but where's the speed? What she got off the Kreisel? It's all gone away. 300s is the lead, but she hasn't got the speed on board, surely, to hang on to that, unless she can manufacture something very special at the bottom of the track. 100th of a second, slightly better exit, not enough to keep the lead. Behind, no, tied! So Mariama Jumanka will get a medal, and so too will Katy Bile and Jennifer Onosanya. They are European Championship medalists. They will take a medal here in Winterberg. Bile and Onosanya with the European bronze medalists together in 2019, and they will be again in 2021. That was in Koenigsee. Here in Winterberg, skid there. Not enough to take it away. Yes, Katy Bile, it's been a very good few months for the Austrians. So 2 sleds to go. Who's going to win this one? Our World Cup points leader next up. Kim Kalicki, the 23-year-old junior world champion on this track in February last year. She's our points leader. This is her 7th ever World Cup race. The women who are tied behind her, Mariama Jumanka, 41 World Cup starts, Katy Bile, 32. Together they have 10 times the World Cup experience of Kim Kalicki. Kalicki has got speed, and boy, does she have a great starter as well. And Kristen's track, the only brakewoman currently racing to have won on this track. Still in the green by 2/10. They're building the lead over Bile and Jumanka. This is not about guarding silver. This is about trying to snatch a first ever World Cup win. Kalicki needs a big lead 2600s up. She was 1400s from gold in the first heat. This needs to be an epic run. 3/10 up. It is an epic run. 1:30.0, best speed we've seen, and a 57.01. Exactly what she did in the first heat. To the 100th of a second, a big run from Kim Kalicki and Ann-Kristen Strack. First heat, 5:61 start and a 57.01. Second heat, 5:61 start and a 57.01. If you overlaid the traces, they would be variations, but that is the consistency that you need. That's the short game. That is holing every putt. That is birdieing every hole. And ducks the head even for the final 100th. Well, big smile from our World Cup points leader. She will remain the World Cup points leader. Again, she's ahead of Katie Bile, Melanie Hassler, Andrea Greco, and Laura Nolte, who is in 5th position with 1 crash, cannot overhaul her. But Laura Nolte could take her 3rd gold medal of the season. Laura Nolte and Deborah Levy. 3 wins and 4 podiums together. And this is Laura Nolte's 10th World Cup start, the 7th for Levy. 5:47, fastest start of the competition. Nolte seems able to ratchet it up even more when the pressure's on. 3,700s up. In a field, I remind you, where we had 7 sleds covered by a 10th and no fewer than 3 dead heats in the first heat. 3,900s up. Whatever Francesco Frigic has for breakfast, Laura Nolte seems to be having it as well. 4,200s up in Winterberg. This is inconceivable in a World Cup field. Laura Nolte, 4,300s, adding the advantage all the way. And across the line, she is the new European champion. She wins again, her 3rd gold medal of the season. And René Spies looking happy because he has got 3 German sleds on the podium. Laura Nolte and Deborah Levy win again. So 10 World Cup races for Laura Nolte. She has finished 1 race off the podium and 1 on her head. And that is her 4th World Cup win. Well, Laura Nolte, gold medal here in Winterberg. The winner in Sigulda race 2, the winner in Innsbruck race 1, silver medal in Innsbruck race 2 behind Stephanie Schneider. Laura Nolte and Deborah Levy win again, 3rd gold medal of the season. And that will push them right back up in the World Cup rankings. She crashed out in the first race of the season, shooting for the medals. She is always in the hunt. Laura Nolte and Deborah Levy, the first heat leaders by 1,400s, rush away to win by 4,200s. Added nearly 3/10 in 1 run on the best women drivers in the world. That is an epic 2nd heat. I don't know what you do when you're sitting watching that. Kim Kalicki, the World Cup points leader, in silver, and a tie for bronze between Katie Bile and Mariama Yamanka means Christine de Bruin is the best North American slider in 5th, ahead of Kaylee Humphries and Alana Myers-Taylor. Andrea Greco takes 8th. And our reigning champion, the European champion, Nadezhda Sergeva, in 16th place, waves her title goodbye. So European gold to Laura Nolte and Deborah Levy, European silver to Kim Kalicki and Ann-Kristen Strack, and European bronze medals go to Katie Bile and Jennifer Onosanya, Mariama Yamanka and Leonie Fiebig. And there is your race winner, Laura Nolte. So another fantastic day at the office for Laura Nolte. And that should move her up, I think, probably, to 3rd in the World Cup standings as Melanie Hassler and Andrea Greco slip a little. Mariama Yamanka moves up as well. She stays in 6th, but moves away from Margot Bock in 7th place. So Kim Kalicki continues to lead the World Cup standings. 3 races remain in the next 3 weeks. We go to St. Switzerland next week, Koenigsegg, Bavaria, and then back to Innsbruck for the final World Cup race to replace the race that was due to happen in March in Beijing before heading to Altenburg for the World Championships. And great to have our North American teams back with us, sliding in the World Cup as well. So take a look at our European Championships. Lauren Alter and Deborah Levy, the gold medalists, ahead of Kim Kalicki and Ann-Kristen Strack, Jennifer Onosanya and Katie Bile, and Mariama Umanka and Leonie Fiebig are the joint bronze medalists. Anya Grecu, silver last year, 5th place this year. Carlo Bock and Sandy Claire in 6th position ahead of Lubov Chernik and Elena Mamedova. Mamedova, the outgoing champion, she won that title with Nadezhda Sergeva last year. Sergeva dropping down the order here, only 12th in the Europeans. And that is it from a snowy Winterberg for the women's bobsleigh. 2-man action starts at 2 local, 1300 Greenwich Mean Time. We'll see you then. Until then, from me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew, thanks for joining us. We'll see you then. Bye for now.
Ja, hallo, zuerst herzlichen Glückwunsch zur 3. Saisonsieg. Das war heute die Basis für diesen Erfolg auf deiner Einheit.